Hi, and welcome to the second part of our cell organelles video. So just in case you haven't already watched the part one, you're going to want to go back and do that. Otherwise, some of this might not make as much sense. I'm not going to stop and tell you every time what you need to be writing down, but for each organelle, you should write the name of the organelle in the left-hand column, write down its factory part. We're going to be talking about that metaphor again, and also some additional notes about what that organelle does. So just as a refresher, the cell is a factory. So we're going to be using this metaphor in order to talk about the different parts of the cell. And the product that we are producing in a cell is protein. So the cells are going to be making proteins in order to do their job. So the first organelle that we're going to be talking about in this video is vacuoles. And vacuoles are the storage center. So they can be thought of like the storehouse of the cell. And essentially, they're just empty sacs that will hold materials for later use. So this could be water, salts, carbohydrates, anything that the cell needs to store. In plant cells in particular, we have a large central vacuole that tends to be filled with a lot of liquid. The picture at the right shows that lighter green area in the middle is the plant cell's vacuole. Animal cells are going to be different. They're only going to have a few very small vacuoles. And then single-celled organisms have a special type of vacuole that's going to help pump out excess water. And this is actually so that they don't explode. We don't want them getting too much water in them, and then the membrane ruptures and they explode all over the place. So they have really special vacuoles to do that. So it's the storage center. So all cells need energy. All factories need some sort of energy in order to actually produce their materials. And so the two organelles that are going to do that are mitochondria and chloroplasts. So we're going to start off talking about mitochondria. These are found in all cells, plant and animal cells, bacteria, anything that needs to have energy is going to have a mitochondria. So this converts the chemical energy from food into energy for the cell to use. So in your factory, this is going to be whatever the energy is for the cell. It might be electricity, it might be some other nuclear power, something like that, but this is going to be the thing that powers the factory in order to make its proteins, since we're talking about cells. And mitochondria is where cellular respiration happens. So that's the site of that actually happening, making ATP or cell energy so that way the cell can do its functions. The chloroplast is only going to be found in plant cells, and a few small unicellular organisms will have chloroplasts too, but animal cells do not have chloroplasts. Chloroplasts capture energy from the sunlight and convert it into chemical energy that the cell can use during photosynthesis. So anything that does photosynthesis is going to have chloroplasts. So this would be a way to make energy without having to have food coming in, just coming from the sun. Our next organelle that we're going to talk about is the cytoskeleton. And this isn't like one particular structure. It's actually a bunch of things that are going to provide structure and support to the cell. So you can think about the cytoskeleton as the like scaffolding in a building, what's going to give the building its shape and support. It's also going to help with cell movement. It's going to help the cell get to where it needs to go, because some cells do actually move. If it's a stationary cell, it's just kind of going to hold it in place, make sure that it's where it needs to be. And it's also very important during cell division. When we learn how cells divide, how they make more of themselves, it's going to be involved in that process as well. The cell membrane can be thought of like the external factory wall. So this would be like the outside area of the factory. And it's going to be the boundary to the cell. So it's what keeps the outside out and the inside in for the cell. It's going to control what enters and leaves the cell, just like the outside walls of a factory are going to keep things in, keep things out. It's very thin and flexible, but it also provides a lot of structure and support. And specifically, it's made up of a double layer sheet called a lipid bilayer. So let's break that word down. Lipid means fat, and bilayer, bi means two. So it's going to be 2 layers of fats. And you can see in that picture on the right-hand side there, our lipids are actually those orange balls, and there's 2 layers of them. And so inside, in the middle there's actually an area that doesn't like water, and that's why it's in the middle. In order to get across that, it's going to have little pores and channels and things, but you don't really need to know much about that right now. Just know that the cell membrane is the exterior part of the cell. It's going to allow some things in, very strong, but also flexible. And then the cell wall can be thought of like a fence surrounding the factory. So this is only going to be found in plant cells, fungi, and bacteria. Animal cells do not have a cell wall. It's going to be just outside of the cell membrane. So plants, fungi, bacteria, they still have a cell membrane. They still have the exterior walls of the factory. It's just going to be an additional barrier that things have to go through in order to transport that product out or to bring materials in. Because it is so rigid, things can't just flow across it. So it does have pores, or almost like doors or gates, to allow things in and out. And that is the end of our cell organelles video. Go back, listen to everything again, take some more notes down, make sure that you have each organelle and what it does in the factory metaphor, as well as what it actually does inside of the cell.